All of our tools were submerged underwater.
It looks like a bomb went off there.
Imagine the biggest storm you've ever been through.
He had to chainsaw his way out his front door.
Cold, hard rain has local creeks and rivers running high.
All this came underneath the doors.
What if the rain didn't stop?
A levee breaks. Your neighborhood starts taking on water.
In Sacramento region alone, there's over 514,000 people that are protected by these levees.
Studies suggest that Sacramento is actually one of the top 10 in the nation most at risk for flooding due to rivers.
The most intense atmospheric river storms are likely to become significantly more intense.
And certainly the spillway incident was one of those instances where we did not have time.
Are we prepared? This is Megaflood. Atmospheric rivers, which are intensified by climate change, account for more than 90% of flood damages in California. These storms present the biggest threat to our low-lying areas that sit below levees, which keep water away from people.
What is this place?
So this is where flood response across the state is coordinated.
Liz Bryson is the manager of flood operations at the California Department of Water Resources. Liz and DWR lead the state's flood response. When activated, people pack this relatively small and unassuming room right here in Sacramento.
One big part of what we do during high water is facilitate discussions between reservoir operators, because those releases into the rivers could have major impacts downstream. So we want to make sure that all the appropriate agencies are in the conversation, and so they're not just making decisions in silos. Emergencies begin and end at the local level, and so when a local agency runs out of resources, they move up to the county. When the county runs out of resources, they come up to the state level. So the Flood Operations Center coordinates and supports that response.
The Flood Ops Center was most recently activated in 2019 for 4 days. In 2017, the center was active for 151. That was the year of the Oroville Dam crisis. Nearly 200,000 people living downstream from the dam were told to leave their homes. It was a crisis Butte County Sheriff Corey Honey remembers well.
There's been an ongoing effort to try to get people to understand that we don't issue these warnings lightly. They're based on the best information we have at the time. They're based on our experience with these kinds of events, and ask that they heed those warnings and move to an area where they're much safer. One of the things that we learned is that the most effective way to get somebody to evacuate is for a uniformed law enforcement officer to go to their house, knock on their door, tell them of the emergency, and tell them what they need to do. But sometimes you don't have the time for that, and certainly the spillway incident was one of those instances where we did not have time.
In 2017, Sheriff Honey personally called David and Mariana Rodriguez to tell them to leave their home.
I said, all right, well, we're going to try to get out of here as fast as I can. And I know a bunch of back roads to run through the agricultural roads. So it was able to get me pretty fast to the nice landing area until we hit that area. So everybody was trying to go out to either Woodland, Calusa, different areas. So once I hit nice landing to Woodland, it took me about 2 hours to get into Woodland, which should be only about 20-minute drive.
They opted to take the back roads instead of the major thoroughfares, something not recommended should flooding occur. Are there designated flood evacuation routes?
There absolutely are designated flood emergency routes from every community in Sacramento County and San Joaquin County and up and down the valley.
John Kane with River Partners works to restore natural floodplains and bolster defenses that protect flat, low-lying areas in the Sacramento and Central Valleys.
What building in the floodplains does behind a levee or below a dam is puts a whole bunch of people in harm's way and enriches some developer that put houses in the floodplain. They're not paying for the dam. They're delivering a bill, almost certainly to future generations to have to pay for that foolish development.
Following the Hurricane Katrina disaster in Louisiana, officials put a building moratorium on Sacramento's Natomas neighborhood until 2015 over concerns the levees were not strong enough to help hold back the American and Sacramento rivers. The levee system was, and still is, being upgraded to better withstand heavy storms.
What's really important is everybody understands what the evacuation route is. And it's particularly important for residents to know where to go and where not to go. Sometimes people think, all I got to do is get out of town. Well, you could be driving right into the flood.
These renderings from Sacramento County show the evacuation route should a levee fail in South Natomas, as large portions of the area would be underwater in hours. If a levee broke in the area around Old Sacramento, most of downtown and the Pocket would be under 16 feet of water within a day. As we live and continue to build in flat, low-lying cities in the valley, it's important to know your way out should disaster hit. Your best defense against flooding is to be prepared.
Brendan, we aired this piece in December before any of these storms. I mean, we really got a taste of what this can do to our area and what it can mean for our area.
Yeah, and with this intense string of atmospheric rivers that we've had, we just wanted to show how big the impact of one levee failure could have. So let's take Natomas, for example. People living there would only have a few hours to get out of their homes if a levee were to break. This levee helps protect neighborhoods in South Natomas from being underwater. It's located near Discovery Park on the American River. The levees here are maintained by Reclamation District 1000, and they rely on decades-old pumps to help push water back up and over the embankments. If a levee were to buckle in this area, residents would only have about 2 hours to start evacuating before major roads like El Camino Avenue become impassable. In that time, neighborhoods along Garden Highway could already have a foot of water in their living rooms and their backyards. Within 6 hours, the floodwater would rise even more, forcing major highways like I-5, I-80, and Highway 99 to close, effectively cutting the state in half, both north to south and east to west. The Sacramento International Airport would have to close down too, with standing water on the tarmac. This alone would have massive economic impacts on the entire state of California. At its peak, there could even be between 15 and 20 feet of standing water in the most populated parts of Natomas, which is enough to at least partially submerge a 2-story house. About 130,000 people live in this part of Sacramento alone. It's a huge reason why Sacramento County has some of the highest flood risk of any major city in the United States.
And on a smaller scale, I mean, we did see this in Wilton. I saw some of those breaches firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, I was working that night here doing the weather. The night that I guess that was right after New Year's, we had all of the flooding concerns going on, all that rain coming in. We got the flash flood warning. It said levee break imminent in Wilton, and residents only had a few hours to pack their belongings and get out.
And leave, yeah.
And that is the kind of thing that we're talking about here. It doesn't really matter where you live. All of Sacramento, and to some degree as well, Stockton down towards Modesto, all protected by levees and this flood infrastructure. So when it rains, yeah, it's going to work 99% of the time, right? But it's always the question mark is it going to hold this time, right? We've had all this rain in a mega flood scenario like this, where you have 30 days plus of rain and it just keeps falling and reservoirs are dumping. They're in flood control management.
You get no break whatsoever.
No breaks, and that's when we start to wonder, look, there could have some issues with the levee, so it's important everybody has flood insurance, and you have your go bag. Just take it seriously, right? You're not going to need to evacuate every single time, but it's important to know where the evacuation routes are. It's important to know what to bring and what to have with you.
Yep, and the flood ops center that you talked about in your piece, it was activated for the first time since 2017. What do we know about how it went? Yeah, it was active for 4 days in 2019. That was the most recent time, but then it activated this January, and a lot of what they were focusing on was the Wilton area with the Cosumnes River. They had flood fight materials down there. They had flood fight experts over there as well, just to help reinforce that levee. Because it broke early on, right? We had multiple breaks in the levee early on in this line of atmospheric storms that we had. So it was important to help reinforce it so that we could maintain or manage the flooding that we had down there. All right, Brendan, thank you. And this isn't the end of our mega flood series. We do have Carly coming up tomorrow, and she's really looking at how you can prepare. Do you have flood insurance? So she'll be answering all those questions.
And the importance of go bags.
Yes, exactly. All right, Brendan, thank you so much.
Thank you.